oh boy, more controversy. And once again, it's involving Kirk Ferentz, his son, and the struggling Iowa offense. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, thank you to Iowa Floor Covering. Check out their waterproof vinyl flooring. It's their Tough Core click together 4.5 millimeter waterproof vinyl flooring being sold right now by the guys at IFC down in Bondurant at just $269 per foot. Much better value than you'll find at any of those big box stores. And you're supporting an Iowa company, a local company right in the heart of central Iowa. Visit iowafloorcovering.com/DIY. All right, so I knew this was going to turn into a hot button issue as soon as I heard the words come out of Kirk Ferentz's mouth. In case you missed Kirk Ferentz's press conference on Tuesday afternoon, he was asked about his players' response to adversity, right? And how they're approaching each day, each week, and responding to some of the problems that they face this year, which was a fair question, right? I think it's been more than impressive, the leadership that we've seen out of guys like Jack Campbell, out of guys like Arlen Bruce, out of guys like Sam Laporta. But it was a fair question. Now, Kirk used this opportunity to bring up a reporter's line of questioning from Saturday, from after the game on Saturday, and this was not an Iowa reporter. In case you missed it, Doug Lesmerises of Cleveland.com, who's also an Ohio State writer and podcaster, hit Kirk Ferentz with a series of tough questions, but I thought fair questions. First of all, let's look back. In case you missed it, let's look back at the questioning from Doug following the game on Saturday.
Kirk, why are you willing to change a player's position to put in a new quarterback in the middle of the year, but you would not be willing to evaluate an assistant coach and make a decision in the middle of the year?
I think you're talking about two separate job descriptions and two separate areas of responsibility. I know people do it. I know it's been done. It's been done this year. Again, it's just not my preference. My preference has been to play it out. And there's evidence to show that, it's worked pretty well in the past. So we'll play it out, and then we'll do our assessments and our evaluations when everything's over. And the season's not over, so when the season's over, we'll make an evaluation. I think it's best for our program.
You have one of the least productive offenses in the country.
I've noticed that, yeah.
Everybody's noticed it.
Well,
Do you
thank you.
believe that you're putting the Iowa football program in a bad spot by having that kind of production on one side of the ball, and it's run by one of your family members?
It's got no bearing on who the person is, all right? It's just a matter of who is coaching our football team. Okay, the guys on our staff are guys I think that have demonstrated success. They're good people, and we're going to keep pushing forward. No, I don't feel like we're doing anything wrong.
When you get to the end of the year and you do make that evaluation, will evaluating Brian be any different than evaluating any other assistant coach?
We've at least I've tried to treat everybody with consistency on our staff, past and present. Same thing with players. We've had 3 family members play as well in our program, and they got to earn everything they get, just like coaches do.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, everyone.
So, of course, as you can imagine, a lot of Hawkeye fans happy with that line of questioning. Some fans saying, why aren't Iowa media members asking those tough questions? And there have been tough questions asked by Iowa media members. I do feel like the general consensus among the Iowa media, and of course, I'm not there every Tuesday asking questions, but I feel like the general consensus is these questions have been asked. Now, Doug approached them in a slightly different manner, and I respect the way he approached these questions. But here's what Kirk Ferentz said on Tuesday when given an opportunity to take a shot at the Cleveland.com writer.
I complimented the guys on Sunday just, because during the questioning, in some cases interrogation on Saturday that I experienced. And the one good thing about that, it dawned on me coming home, I said, man, as bad as today was, it could have been worse, because I could have been that guy. I could have been that guy, like had his job and had to act like he did. So, yeah, it could be a hell of a lot worse, right? Things aren't all bad.
Probably not the best thing to say. Look, I don't have an issue with Kirk Ferentz responding. I don't have an issue with him being upset about the questions. I have no issue with him saying something, addressing the questions. But it does give the appearance that Kirk Ferentz is belittling someone who makes, a tenth, 10%, well, not even that, right? Probably 5% of what Kirk Ferentz makes on a yearly basis, maybe less. And I'm not saying that he meant it that way, but once again, this is how many times we said this year with either Brian or Kirk, where something comes out of their mouths and we say, boy, that didn't sound right. Maybe he didn't mean it this way, but that didn't sound right. As I brought up before, Kirk Ferentz does have a PR firm. He's got a gal that helps him out as it relates to public relations. And I believe she accompanies, I don't know if she's there every Tuesday, but certainly she's involved in assuring that Kirk Ferentz says the right things at the right times. This was probably not something that was PR approved. Now, with that being said, as I said earlier, I can understand where he's coming from. Doug actually wrote a pretty hot article, and I say hot. A lot of fans navigated to it. It was basically on nepotism in college football and how Kirk Ferentz's program is the epitome of nepotism in college football. And Doug has every right to write that story. He obviously has no fear of being banned from these press conferences. There has been speculation that Iowa may take away credentials and access to a reporter if he goes too far. And I think certainly in Kirk Ferentz's mind, Doug went too far in this line of questioning, but he has no fear as an Ohio State reporter. Now, this has polarized fans on social media. A lot of fans praising Doug, saying it's a bad look for Kirk to, once again, belittle or condescend a reporter who makes exponentially less money than Kirk Ferentz does. For Kirk Ferentz to say, well, I could always be that guy. Life could always be worse. Yeah, again, I agree. That it is not a good look. And it's not a great demonstration of self-awareness when you are failing to understand that, look, I mean, a lot of the Iowa fans agree with everything Doug said. And whether you agree with it or not, you are not appeasing the masses. And maybe you say that's not his job. Well, I'll tell you, it's going to be his job when fans don't renew their season tickets, when the big donors stop giving money, right? And the recruits don't come here. It is your job to appease at least a portion of those masses. So that's not a great aspect of this whole situation. Now, some fans have come to Kirk Ferentz's defense, saying that, look, he has every right to defend himself. If Iowa were winning and he defended himself against a reporter, then nobody would be complaining. Well, guess what? They're not winning. All right. It does appear that Brian Ferentz is a direct result of nepotism. His being allowed to continue in this position through 2022 with no evaluation during the season, even though Gary Barta and the Iowa administration has proven in the past that they are willing to make firings during this season. See a former volleyball coach that got relieved of her duties during the season. And of course, he was promoted during the offseason. He was promoted as QB's coach when Ken O'Keefe stepped down. So you really can't use that argument as much as you may want to as a Kirk Ferentz apologist. Now, as I said, I have no issue with the criticism from Kirk. I have no issue with that. If it's done in a respectful manner, I don't feel like this was done in a real respectful manner. Now, something of note here. I did see this response to a tweet, and this was a tweet originally from Tyler Kluver. It's a response to Tyler Kluver, former Iowa long snapper. Justin Schoenrock says, it's trendy right now to bash Ferentz. So is that what's occurring? Is it just a matter of people using convenience and using the opportunity to take a shot at Kirk Ferentz? Now, as it relates to Doug, I can't be the judge of that. I don't read Doug's work. Has he been an advocate against nepotism in his work throughout the many months at Cleveland.com and in his podcast? I don't know. Maybe he has been. And if he has, I understand why this would upset him even as a Buckeye writer. Look, he's not a Buckeye fan. People who say he shouldn't be writing about this because, well, you should stick to the Buckeyes. Based on what? All right. Why can't he be critical of another program? And by the way, if he is a Buckeye writer, which he is, or if he was a Buckeye fan, you have every right to be upset in that situation. You have an Iowa program that you may feel is misrepresenting the conference and not making the conference look very good. And you could argue is making the quality of the conference worse. I mean, you look at Iowa being a laughingstock of college football, which it is right now. I could understand why an Ohio State reporter or fan may take exception to that. But again, I don't know if Doug has been an active advocate against nepotism in sports before now. But if he has, then I'm not going to accuse him of just being opportunistic and using the trend of bashing Kirk Ferentz to help his business and to help his notoriety. But there are some people, I understand where Justin Schoenrock is coming from, because there are some people who have jumped on the bandwagon. It's amazing the number of people back in the spring and there were people who were critical just like I was, but it's amazing the number of people back in the spring when Kirk Ferentz doubled down on not only Spencer Petras, but on Brian Ferentz, promoting him as QB's coach after a year in which Iowa was 123rd in total offense, promoting him. And the number of people back then that came to his defense and said, well, we got to wait and see what's happening here. This only makes sense. I had people saying, well, it only makes sense that the play caller is also the QB's coach. I said, okay, you have right to your opinion. Proof is in the pudding. We'll see what happens this fall. Well, the proof has been in the pudding. And some of these same people are now the ones bashing Kirk and bashing Brian for nepotism and for allowing this to continue. I don't want to hear that. As it relates to Justin's tweet, yes, that's being opportunistic. That is using the trend, so to speak, to bash Kirk Ferentz. But for those of us who have been critical of Kirk throughout even the wins last year when they won 10 games, to me, those are the opinions that do matter. All right. Now, you may say that my opinion doesn't matter. You're still here watching this video. You have every right to turn it off. If you don't like my opinion, that's fine. But I believe that anybody who's been consistent as it relates to the subject of nepotism and who's been consistent about Brian Ferentz in this situation, even if you're an Ohio State reporter, has every right to be frustrated. And as a reporter, it's Doug's job to ask questions, whether he's an Iowa reporter or an Ohio State reporter. And again, Kirk has every right to disagree, and he has every right to respond. But do I feel like Kirk Ferentz maybe went a little bit too far in demeaning Doug yesterday during that press conference? Absolutely not a good look for a head coach who's already dealing with tons of criticism on this very subject from his own fan base. Of course, I'll be back with you live Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central Time for a live edition of Hawkeye Hangout. It's a must-win game this Saturday. If Iowa wants any chance of getting to a bowl game, you got to beat the Northwestern Wildcats. Live Hawkeye Hangout Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central Time, right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm.